Well, hello once again. I'm Pastor Jeremy Combs right here at the Lifeford Bible Baptist Church. Feeling much better, still a little bit of a squeak in my voice, but glad to be kind of over that and moving on. Well, speaking of moving on, we're here in 2 Samuel chapter 9, one of my favorite chapters in the book of 2 Samuel, one of my favorite characters in the Bible in 2 Samuel. And he's probably a guy you would avoid, not because of him or anything else, but simply because he's got a tongue twister of a name. His name is Mephibosheth. All right, boy, try saying that fast several times. But we're going to get into David and the story of Mephibosheth here for the next 15 minutes or so. So grab your Bible. We're in 2 Samuel chapter 9, and we look at verse number 1. And David said, "Is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may show them kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Now, we connect, and David connects chapter 9 to chapter 8, and really chapter 7. Jerusalem's been established. Worship has been established. Now, we looked at last time on quickly through chapter 8 that David's kingdom is being established, his influence. And now that things are, can we kind of say, settling down, David begins to think about promises made. And he says, "Is there anybody left of the house of Saul?" Now, typically, a king coming in would not look to do kindness to the administration before him or the monarchy before him, but he would seek to kill or dispose of them because they could be potential threats. But the key is that I may show him kindness. This would be the idea of mercy, love, for Jonathan's sake. You say, what is this all about? Well, if you'd go back to 1 Samuel chapter 20, you're going to find that David and Jonathan, of course, had a wonderful friendship, and they also made a covenant together. 1 Samuel 20 and verse 13, "The Lord do so and much more to Jonathan, but if it please my father to do thee evil, then I will show it to thee and send thee away, that thou mayest go in peace, and the Lord be with thee, as he hath been with my father. And thou shalt not only while yet I live show me the kindness of the Lord, that I die not, but also thou shalt not cut off thy kindness from my house forever. No, not when the Lord hath cut off the enemies of David, every one from the face of the earth." So basically the covenant was that Jonathan had told David, I have to be loyal to the king, my father, but you will always have my love and mercy and kindness. And his covenant is, when I am gone and when your enemies are put away from you and you have rest, don't forget to show kindness to my relatives, my descendants. So obviously true to his word, here comes David, and he says, I need to fulfill this word. This picture of Mephibosheth in chapter 9 is a wonderful picture, almost a complete picture of what our King Jesus does for us. You'll notice at the beginning of verse 1 that it is David that initiates the act of kindness and love and mercy. Obviously, it is God who activated and initiated the love and kindness and mercy that he showed us. As we'll see in a few minutes, Mephibosheth is out on the barren plains of Lodabar. And yet David, in his splendored palace, leaves that to go and find this suffering man. God left the splendors of heaven to come and to find us. Why? Because of his word. He promised it, and God always keeps his word. Verse 2, "And there was one of the house of Saul, a servant whose name was Ziba." Now, Ziba is going to be a fascinating character. We'll just touch on him today. We'll get into him more as the book unfolds. "And when they had called him unto David, the king said unto him, Art thou Ziba? He said, Thy servant is he." Ziba liked to talk the talk. Okay, he was a smooth guy when it came to using his speech. And they said, "Are you a servant of the king?" And he said, "Oh yes, that's me." The king said, "Is there not yet any of the house of Saul," this would be verse 3, "that I may show the kindness of God unto him?" And Ziba said unto the king, "Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet." And the king said unto him, verse 4, "Where is he?" Ziba said unto the king, "Behold, he's in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, in Lodabar." Now, you say, what happened to Mephibosheth? Well, you'd have to go back to 2 Samuel 4:4. We touched on this a little bit earlier, that uh, when we find that Saul was killed, and Jonathan, of course, that everything kind of went to pieces, and the Philistines began to invade. And maybe out of fear of the Philistines, maybe out of fear of what David would do, a maid grabs the son of Jonathan, Mephibosheth, and Mephibosheth is probably he is 5 years of age. And as they're running, there's a fall. She drops him, and because of that, he is lame on his feet. This is the idea of that he is a cripple, and he's living out in the barren plains. This means no Lodabar, means pastureless land. So it must have been really a wasteland that Mephibosheth is living in. And again, boy, there's so much here. This would be, and I've thought about this, a great message. We've got some booklets we published. It'd be a great booklet. Maybe I'll do that here when I get an opportunity. But he was lame. That is, he couldn't help himself. When we were sinners, we couldn't help ourselves. We find that he was lame because of the fall. We are lame and disabled because of sin, and our sin came because of a fall, the fall of Adam. And we find that now he's in Lodabar, which is a barrenless wasteland. I like what A.W. Pink says about this. He says, Lodabar is written all across the various fields of this world, though the great masses of people realize it not. Multitudes are seeking to find something to fill the void in their heart which God should occupy. In other words, they're looking in the fields of money, but they're empty. They're looking in the fields of pleasure, but they are empty. And this is where we find Mephibosheth. He is lame. He is out in the middle of nowhere. He really could be considered to be an enemy of David. Verse 5, the king David sent and fetched him out of the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, and from Lodabar. Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was coming to David, he fell on his face and did reverence. Mephibosheth didn't come in and say, David, you remember what you told my dad? You better do right. You better make sure you keep your word. There was no arrogance. There was no assumptiveness. There was just humiliation, and he falls down before him. Won't it be wonderful one day when we meet our Lord and Savior? And I know there's people that say, well, I'm going to ask him this. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. I don't believe so. I think we'll do as Mephibosheth did. I think we will fall down at the feet of Jesus. Look at the next phrase, though, in verse 6. And David said, Mephibosheth. The king knew his name. The king is the first one to speak, not Mephibosheth. That's how God calls us. He does the inviting. We simply do the responding. God knows your name. It's interesting. Not a lot of people may know you or me. Maybe you're in a place like Lodabar. I think of Lyford, about 200 people in our town. This is a small place. We had a speaker come in for a men's stakeout this past Friday, and he joked about, I never in all my life thought I'd be in a town called Lyford. Well, it was a Lodabar place, but I tell you what, maybe there's a lot of folks that don't know your name. They don't know what's going on, but aren't you thankful that the king knows who you are? And he answered. How does Mephibosheth respond to this? Behold thy servant. He immediately submits his life to the king. And David said unto him, verse 7, fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake, and will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually. David says, you don't need to fear, because I'm going to be kind and merciful to you because of another's sake, because of your father Jonathan. When we are saved, God takes away our fear, and then he graciously says, this is not because of you. This is all because of another. When we stand in heaven one day before God, it won't be, I deserve to be here. It will be, I don't deserve this. I'm only here and receiving your love and mercy, God, because of what Jesus, another, has done for me. And aren't you glad we're not just saved and then sent away as servants? Even for Mephibosheth to be made a bondservant, or maybe even to put into a house arrest type situation, would not be altogether unfair, but he doesn't do that. He says, thou shalt eat bread at my table continually. He says, my door is always open. Maybe even he lived, well, we know later in the book that he living near or in the palace, and you're going to sup with me. You're going to eat with me. You're going to fellowship with me. That's why God saves us. He wants to have a personal relationship with us. And he, Mephibosheth, verse 8, bowed himself and said, "What is thy servant that thou shouldest look on such a dead dog as I am?" Whoa. He doesn't say, "I'm glad you did that," or "you deserve." No, he still had that spirit of humility. He said, "I'm like a dead dog. I'm nothing. I'm below nothing. Why would you do this? I am so unworthy." We're so unworthy to be saved. None of us deserve it. If we got what we deserved, it would be hell. But aren't you glad the king forgives? Then the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said unto him, "I've given unto thy master's son all that pertained to Saul and to his house. Thou therefore and thy sons and thy servants shall till the land for him. Thou shalt bring in the fruits, that thy master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, thy master's son, shall eat bread always at my table." Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. So Ziba in and of himself was a powerful man. It appears that probably Ziba was the more powerful than Mephibosheth, and may have even been somewhat using Mephibosheth by name only to inherit his lands and to kind of have the puppet string power. Maybe is a good way to say it. But David puts Ziba in his place. Now Ziba is going to pull back on this. We'll see this. Ziba's an opportunist, and we'll see that later. But at this point, he says, "Ziba, you go back. You take care of these lands. You and your sons, there's 15 of them, quite a bit." And they had themselves 20 servants. And he said, "You bring the prophet to Mephibosheth, but don't worry about having to feed and care for him anymore. He's mine. I'm going to take care of him." Wow. Then said Ziba unto the king, "According to all that my lord the king hath commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth, saith the king, he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons." And Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, and all that dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem. He did eat continually at the king's table and was lame on both his feet. Wow, what a great story. Mephibosheth is in the Bible. He's not mentioned a lot in the book. I have down that he is mentioned 14 times, but we're going to see him later in 2 Samuel, but he's going to be taken advantage of. And yet he's going to stay and he's going to be remaining loyal to David. It'd have been really easy for Mephibosheth to be a bitter and angry individual, but he wasn't. He recognized the grace and the sovereignty of God, and he chose to not dwell upon his hurts, but to dwell upon the blessings that God had given him. There's an old saying that says it this way: we should learn to write our hurts in the sand, but carve our blessings in stone. It's amazing. God can be so good to us, and we need more of the Spirit. I'm as a dead dog. I'm not worthy of this, God. I don't deserve to be saved. I don't deserve to have such a beautiful family. I don't deserve to have the job, the health, on down the line we go. But instead, it seems like instead of carving those things into stone as a memorial to God, we would rather spend our time writing about all the hurts. I've had cancer, and I've lost my job, and people have been mean, and nobody understands. And Mephibosheth could have been that kind of a guy, but he wasn't. And I think because of that, God honored Mephibosheth through an already arranged promise from David and Jonathan. And what a memorial it is that Mephibosheth is. Today, do you know the king? Have you gone from being as a dead dog and a lowly servant to sitting at his table, eating and fellowshipping with him? I sure hope so. And if that's the case, why would we not want to go and just tell everyone how wonderful the king is? Well, boy, two episodes in a row, we've gotten through a complete chapter. Really rushed through Mephibosheth. Those 13 verses are just jam-packed. I hope you'll go back and look through them and think about how God saves sinners. Hey, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again on Thursday. God bless you.